Welcome back, everyone. We have our final speaker of the night, Angela Soffe. I connected with Angela after hearing her talk on a podcast a couple of years back, discussing her experience of leaving Mormonism. When I heard her music, I was hooked. Today, she'll be sharing with us about healing from religious programming the artist's way. To learn more about Angela and her music, please visit our exhibit hall. And welcome, Angela Soffe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure. And hello, everyone that's on this platform. It's lovely to see your little thumbnails. I'm going to go ahead and get started in the interest of time. And I just want to introduce where I'm at, first of all. So I'm a recording artist, and I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee right now, recording my next record. And you can see behind me, I think this is cool. If you recognize this lady here, that's Dolly and Wild Horses, and here's Dolly again. And I'm in my producer's studio, and I've been here. This is my second trip to Nashville, but I'm based in the Northwest. So anyway, I hope you will bear with me. I wasn't expecting to do this from the studio, but I'm excited because I'm hoping at the end, if I have time, I can play you a new track from the record. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and share my screen. I'm talking today about how to heal from religious programming, and I'm going to give you one perspective. Obviously, you've been hearing from some great minds, and so this is just my perspective as an artist. And I'm going to start with a little bit about me. So I'm an award-winning music artist and composer, and I'm here in Nashville making my record. I do Americana and pop and a lot of different things. I also own a business, and I'm teaching women how to be brave and reprogram their minds to achieve the life that they want. I'm the mom of 3 kids, 1 husband, 1 dog. I love Asian food, sailing, cooking, palm trees, and I'm really obsessed with the way that our minds work. So in the beginning, I'm talking about my family here, okay? So this is my grandmother over here, and I come from a very long line of Mormon pioneer ancestry. They came from Europe in the 1850s, and my father is the oldest of 10, born in Salt Lake City, and my mother is from Argentina, is the oldest of 10. And in Mormonism, there is a strong emphasis on staying true to the faith of your forefathers, the faith of your ancestors. That is emphasized as a strong family value. So there's my darling grandmother over there, who is now like 96. And me, this is my sweet family. I grew up, I call myself, a white Asian Latina Mormon girl because I have a very mixed background. I was raised in Hong Kong, China, and then my family moved to the Philippines when I was a little bit older, when I was about 9. And then I went to an international school, and I was the middle of 5 children. And our focus really as kids was on church duties and callings. My training was to focus on my music and my education and on becoming a mother. That was what was really enforced and taught to me as to be the highest calling that I could achieve. So not much focus on career or anything like that. But we did have a really good childhood. And I just included these photos because I think this plays part into some of why it can be difficult to step away from religion, because in my case, I had a very loving, warm, accepting family, and our values were based on togetherness and eternal families, and we were sealed in the temple as a family, and all these terms, are specific to Mormonism. But what it meant for me was that because of religion, we were bound together as a family, and without it, we were not. And so having such a warm, inviting childhood really, really made it a struggle for me to disentangle myself from Mormonism. And I want to say also that I didn't, my story again here is really just about my own experience and those of other, ex-Mormons who have left the faith experience. It's the whole spectrum. So this is just my experience, but it was very difficult for me. And I just want to back up a little bit. So my early values and instruction as a kid, and I think these are important. I grew up on this boat over here. My dad was really into sailing, and we did a lot of international traveling and adventures on these boats, and we had a strong work ethic, and my goal was to aim for happiness through being a wife and a mother, and always to be worthy of temple blessings, to strive to be perfect, not to be perfect, but to strive for perfection. And the highest achievements that I could attain in this life would be to be faithful to the end, to have personal worthiness, which meant, no sexual relations outside of marriage, no coffee, no tea, and always have clean thoughts, have high church callings, serve a mission, and put others first and live a life of service. And that sounds like a long laundry list, but those were really at the forefront of my mind as a child growing up. And I use this illustration to demonstrate to you what the mind of a child, what you absorb in the faith in Mormonism. And this is like a flow chart that just explains what you're supposed to aim for. So we started out with, as a child, the focus was on obedience and faith, really just obeying the prophet, obeying your elders, obeying the priesthood holders. And then you go to college, and then you go serve a mission, especially if you're a boy. And I served a mission as a girl, but boys are expected. And then you are expected to marry in the temple and to bear children, as many as you can, because children are a heritage of the Lord. And then to continue in church service and be worthy of temple blessings. And if you do all those things, then you can enter the celestial kingdom after this life and attain, eternal life, creating worlds and becoming as God. And also, you can be married and have offspring, right? I won't go into the doctrine. But what this created inside of me was a confusion and a suppression of my real self versus what the plan was for me. And it created angst over having to choose between my own desires and that of the church and my family. And I'm sure if you've, experienced this dissonance, you know what I'm talking about. So there was this extreme fear of expressing doubt, opposing views, or disrupting the clan, because this was my safety. This was my tribe. So really quickly, I followed the path. Okay. So I graduated from high school. I went to Brigham Young University. I was a very good girl, did all the things I was supposed to. I was a missionary in Brazil for 2 years, a year and a half, and ended up meeting my husband in Brazil. There I am as a sweet little missionary. And I love these girls, they're still my friends. These are some people we baptized. The focus was on converting families, 100% obedience to the mission president and to the many, many, many rules. And the focus was really to forget yourself and go to work, to bring in converts for the Lord. And there was a lot of focus on conversions and personal worthiness as a direct result of the amount of converts you had was a direct correlation to your personal worthiness. And then I got married in the Salt Lake City temple shortly thereafter. And then we started a family. So you can see I followed all of the wonderful steps. These are my 3 kids, and my husband and I are still married. But the focus was to, at that point, it's to support your husband and be a helpmeet to him. He really is, the priesthood holder in the home. And we ended up having 3 children fairly soon after we were married. And they were all born, while we were in grad school. And really there was no higher calling. And just a disclaimer, I adore my family. I love my kids. But something happens to us that I call an awakening. And this doesn't always happen to everyone, but if you're listening to this, then you know what I'm talking about. And this awakening, I now call the beautiful moment when everything falls apart. And I'm going to explain to you what happened to me, and I won't go into the details of the trauma, but I want to talk about solutions, because I found in my process, I found a lot of other grieving people, but I didn't find, I had a hard time finding many resources to help me move through the stages that I needed to in order to heal. So I'm going to be talking about that and sharing with you what I wish I had known, or what I wish I had learned or been able to access when I was going through it. So right about here is where this faith change and journey started for me. Again, I won't go into why all that happened. It's just a really long story, but I realized through a series of events that the completed milestones were not equaling happiness. And I became really aware, highly aware of the flaws within the church's history and doctrines. And just like anything in life, when it becomes painful enough, you will take action. And so for me, what I realized was that I needed to start asking more questions. And I came across this early on. A cult is any group that will not let you leave with your dignity intact. And this is exactly what happened to me. It was when I began to try to step away because I, had questions or things didn't line up for me. There was an enormous amount of shame, and my dignity felt like it was really on the chopping block. And in our organization, you're not supposed to look for outside sources of info. And there is a real underground, I would say, family shaming for those who leave because there's the assumption of a desire to sin or laziness, or that you were offended, or that you just couldn't be bothered to be devoted, and that Satan had had a grip on you and had you have been overcome by his many minions. And here's the big lesson, I would say, that I learned. And it is that beliefs truly rule our world in everything. Everything is just one belief. And there are many different belief systems. And we all wear a different set of lenses through which we view our beliefs. So if you can change your beliefs, then your own inner world changes. And I love this quote by Wayne Dyer: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I'm going to share with you what I call the 5-step healing journey. And this is how I experienced it for myself. So the first thing is to identify, then unload, then create, then edit, and accept. And I'm going to talk about this. And this is a process that's ongoing and repeating. Like, I still do all of this now. It's been, I don't know, maybe 5 years, 5-6 years, maybe even. And I still am processing through this flow to keep my mental state positive. I'm still the only one in my family, in my husband's family, to have left the faith. And that's not easy. That's sometimes really, really hard. So it's a process that I've developed that works for me. So the first one is to identify, okay? And what this means simply is identifying the thoughts that you're having. So many times we have emotions and we don't realize that behind the emotion, even though it feels like almost instantaneous, truly behind the emotion is a thought. And so if you can extract the thought that's causing it, then you can really narrow in on what is causing your emotions. And at this point, you're not out to change anything. You just identify the thoughts you are having and what hurts. So what is hurting you? What is bothering you? What thoughts are you ruminating on? What thoughts keep coming back? Why is it triggering you? I mean, this is a 10-page journal entry every day when you're really embarking on this faith healing journey. And identify your mind story of who you think you are. How are you contradicting? How is your current life contradicting your previous beliefs? And just identify, like, lay it out all on the table the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then ask yourself if you're experiencing what I call the thought duality syndrome. And I'll explain this to you because when I experienced this, I thought I was a little bit crazy. Okay. So thought duality syndrome is when your mind simultaneously holds two contradicting beliefs. So here are some examples, right? So example one, this is from my life. My Mormon belief was that shopping on Sundays was a sin. And part of me felt really bad every time I shopped on Sunday. And then I had this new belief that shopping on Sundays was a privilege. And I felt just fine about it. But at the same time, it was like I had two brains, and one of them was shaming me, and one was saying, it's fine. You know, this is good. This is the new you. This is you progressing. And then the other half was like stuck in the past. Or the other example that's happened to me too was my Mormon brain kept saying that the garments, you know, because we wore these sacred underwear called garments, was promised to keep you safe from physical and spiritual harm. And without it, you could be hurt, like physically hurt. And so my brain would say, like, oh, if you don't wear your garments, you know, you could be in a car accident, or you could be burned, or Satan's going to, you know, influence you. And then I had the other half that was calming me down and saying, no, you don't need, you know, your spirituality has nothing to do with what you wear under your clothes. So holding these two beliefs at the same time was really a mind trip for me. And it was really hard to know which part of me was real, which one was I should listen to. And so identifying this, I identified this because I've heard other people describe it. And I think that this is actually what's going on. Like in your process of moving forward, you can hold two beliefs at the same time, two conflicting beliefs. So setting that down on your table of mess, right? You just unload. You unload everything. You don't, not on people or on especially unsafe people, but unloading everything as often and as fluidly as you can. So what this means is, you know, you're journaling, you're crying, you're rage dancing, you're hiking, you're, you know, doing EFT. You know, I've learned about tapping, if you want to look into that, calling trusted friends, meditating, yoga, whatever it is, but finding like not just one outlet, but many, many outlets for you to unload what is going on inside of you. And this is really important. It's really important not to vent in places that are not safe for you. So family and friends who do love you, but don't understand what you're going through, those would be unsafe places. And even though they have your best interest in mind, they just don't understand. And so finding either friends or places online that you can reach out to, support groups, so important. And it's really imperative that you process this anger and fear, because if you don't process, this is another thing I've learned, if you don't process sadness, resentment, everything manifests itself as some form of illness, either physical or mental. I know depression, anxiety, physical ailments, headaches, backaches, all of that will come, you know, in one form or another. We are going to experience that when we don't release it. So making space in your mind for new thoughts and beliefs. And I still do this. I still am checking myself, like what old tapes, what old things am I believing? For example, I just recorded a song that's super sexy in the other room. And it's not like me. I have a hard time, you know, sexuality is so taboo. I'm still working through that. I'm still trying to come to terms, you know, as a grown woman with my own sexuality. And so, you know, singing and writing music that's in any way suggestive feels very wrong to me. It feels very counter. Like some things are firing for me when I do that. And so, you know, making myself like talk about it with my producer and sharing and like, and doing those exercises, like being in a creative space about those things really like opens the doors and liberates you, because reprogramming requires a cleared mind. And here's an example. So I love this imagery. Okay. So you want to buy this new car, but you have an old clunker in the garage. Like, you can't drive your new car into the garage when there's already another car in there. So to make room for the new, you really do have to remove the old. And sometimes it takes a lot of time. But unloading your pre-existing beliefs that don't serve you really will make room for the new ones to come in. I hope my thing isn't blocking. I'll just move that there. Okay. Then the third step is create. Okay. And this is where I want to just have this little like asterisk that you don't have to be a creative person or an artist to be creative. Every human being is a creator. We are all born creating things, scribbles, and we're all molding clay, and we're all doing things as kids that are extremely creative, forts and tree houses and make believe. It's all very creative. So you have so much creativity inside of you. You don't need to be, a painter or a singer or a songwriter or whatever in order to benefit from the act of creating. So use your emotional deposits to create something. And this could be a garden, make a baby, make a song, grow your muscles. Like, it doesn't have to be something that you display. It can just be something that channels your energy. And as you're doing this, do not edit in the process of creation. Just craft it any way you want. Just make it and let it be bad. You don't ever have to show anybody, but allow your emotions to flow through you while you're doing it. So maybe, you're feeling really angry and you decide you want to go, do some blacksmithing. You call up your blacksmithing friend and you go hammer out something, or you go work out. It's creating something. The healing is in the doing of it. As you're making that thing, you are in the process of healing. And I know, because I experienced this by default. I didn't really realize what was going on, but in my depths of despair, I picked up my guitar that I hadn't touched in years, and I started playing and just writing songs that no one would ever hear. And it was through that process that I began making music again. Like, prior to my faith awakening, I really wasn't playing or making any music. And here I am in Nashville making my third record. And I'm grateful to my faith awakening for for waking me up to who I really am. And that's what this is all about, is like coming back to the real you that is underneath like the programming, and uncovering that and taking off all those layers. So experiment with new ways of making new things, and devote time, even if it's just a little bit every day, to making something that feels like the way you can channel your energy. This is like, for example, from my life. Okay. Since I'm talking, there's my band from pre-COVID, this is one of my records. It's like from a music video. These are my workout ladies. Trying new things, having the courage to like use your mind muscles, use your physical muscles, and listening to your true self and what it really wants. I promise you, there is no greater liberation than asking your own self what you really want, instead of the higher powers that be, or those who think that they know better than you. And then the next step is to edit. Okay. So up until this point, no editing is allowed. No editing is allowed. Oh gosh, where does the time go? And at this point, after you've, when you're in the process of making stuff, then it is when you've laid everything out on the table of like what you believe and what you feel and what's going through you, then that's when you can choose your lenses. And everyone is wearing lenses. No one is seeing reality exactly as it is, or exactly the same way. It's all an illusion. So really, you just get to pick the lenses that you want. And this is when it's so fun, because when you realize that everyone is just choosing to see the world through their own set of glasses, then you can take off the glasses you've been wearing that you were given. Maybe you were giving them so lovingly, like I was, but I needed a new pair of glasses. And so I said, no, thank you. These are my kid glasses. And I put on my big girl glasses, the ones that I wanted, the rose colored ones. And I view the world through that lens now. And after your emotions have been like thoroughly processed, you can see the world in the way that you want to, instead of in the way that's handed to you. For example, you can exchange the belief of, I always need to earn my worthiness, or I need to pray for worthiness, or I don't know if I'm acceptable, a new lens that says I'm 100% worthy of all the good things I get to enjoy in life. Life is not a test from God, but a fabulous adventure that I get to experience. These are my beliefs, but you can choose any beliefs that you want. And that's what's so amazing about this process. And what's so exciting is that you can choose the qualities that you want to continue to practice, and examine your old beliefs and say, yes, no, thank you. And you can curate the life that you want and the way that you want to design it. You're designing your own life. And I would recommend not doing this all at once. This is extremely overwhelming. I woke up, in the middle of I had 3 little kids, and, my marriage was kind of on the rocks, and it was like everything was upside down, and I couldn't even figure out, are we going to still pray anymore? So all of those questions are just thrown up in the air, and you just want to pick 1 or 2 at a time to focus on. And to decide, okay, am I the sort of person that prays? Yes, no. Am I the sort of person that does this? And you just decide, and you can choose. And choosing, knowing that you're 100% worthy of whatever choice that you make, because you are here and you deserve to be here on this planet. And I won't go into that because those are my beliefs. But the final one is to accept. Okay, acceptance is when you appreciate, it's an expression of the real you. It's when you finally accept who you are and and you've gotten to know yourself. And this is done through long, quiet conversations with yourself. This can be really uncomfortable, but this can look like writing down on paper who you are now, looking at yourself in the mirror and actually talking out loud to yourself, and defining what you believe about yourself. I mean, we just talked about that, but identifying, even on paper, the things that light you up, that fill your bucket, and what you want in your life moving forward. And then pick 5 to 10 affirmations or things that you now want to believe about yourself in the world. And then just commit to living into that, showing up in that way and celebrating the very small wins along the way. Because it's a lot of 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, 3 steps forward. And then an old friend will call you up and get mad at you for something, and you'll feel like you've just regressed, or you don't know who you are again. And just knowing and having the permission, giving yourself the permission to not have answers and to not have things figured out, is so much liberation. And you'll find so much peace not having to have all the answers all the time. I know that took me a really long time to sit with, I don't know if there's a God. Is that okay for me to not know? Is that okay for me to sit with that question indefinitely? So these are ways, this strategy is a way that I use repeatedly to feel in alignment with who I really am on the inside. And that brings so much peace. This is from a podcast that I spoke on, and I wanted to share it because the truly liberating thing for you when you step away from religion is not necessarily that you got to leave something. It's the empowered feeling that you now get to choose your life. You get to design the life that you want. Whether you're 50, whether you're 15, it doesn't matter. You're handed a second chance. In fact, my most recent record before this one was called Second Wind, because I felt like I got a second win. I got a second chance at life at age 30 to, figure out who I was and like live fresh. And it was such a gift. It is such a gift to be able to do that. These are just some suggestions for me, from me to you. Um, and and for me, my lens that I have chosen is that life is an adventure, and it's just here for me to explore and to have the best time ever. And so, I have this picture of the boat because every time I'm on this boat, it's so exhilarating, and it's reminds me of like just what a great adventure life is when you get to pick it. So be really kind and gentle with your process. Like if you're really struggling with mental health or any of those, any aspect of this, like going slow and being okay with taking tons of time, taking years, following your own timeline, and then using like a lot of proven tactics. Like I've listed here, read lots of books, do like tapping, therapy exercises. There's so many resources. Even people that I know in my small circles that are doing amazing things to support people. Programs like this, there wasn't a conference like this when I left years ago. So I'm grateful to Janice and this whole group of people that are, letting people know that there is support and believing in your ability to heal and thrive. Beliefs, again, are the most important thing. If you believe you can, then you will. And anyway, I'm just excited for anyone who's starting on this journey. It's very painful, it can be, but it's also the greatest gift. It's just so amazing. And the sky is the limit for you. So before I wrap up, I just wanted to let you know. So my oops, hope I didn't mute myself. So I have a training program that's coming out with this record in September, October, and it's called Heroica. And it's specifically geared toward women, but it's for anyone. And it's learning how to really going into the details of how to undo harmful programming and your beliefs to unlock your fullest potential. And this is not just like religious programming, but everyone is born into programming. And we all need some help getting out of our own way and reframing everything that we think. So rewiring the way you think and carving a new path for yourself, creating a plan, and having the skills and the encouragement to go after the life that you want. And I know because this is what I've been working on for the past 6 years since I left Mormonism, is to go for my dreams and the things that I want. So I do have a link. I think it's down here, but it's also in the portal. If you want to sign up for when class opens, you can get all the information. But I'm really excited about this. This is actually called Heroica Academy, and it's just going to be super awesome to like everyone together to progress and head toward the things that you most want in life, which is like, I can't think of anything better than designing the life of your dreams. So I think that's it. Yes, this is my new album coming out in October. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope we haven't gone over time.
Nope,
yeah,
we haven't. Were you wanting to do Q&A, or did you want to do some music, or what would you like? We can do it either way.
Maybe let's do the Q&A and then I'll sing a song and then we'll just end the song. You want to do that?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, we have some questions for you. All right. Thank you for that presentation. It was very interesting. Thanks for the transparency about where you've come from and about just some of the hard steps that you've made on your journey to get to where you are. You've really done a lot of work. Okay, I'm noticing how kind and gentle you are toward your family. Have you always felt this way toward them, or did you go through a phase of anger and betrayal?
Absolutely. The kind feelings I have now, again, it's like a choice, right? So initially I told my family, it's like such a good question, right? Because it's not all rainbows and butterflies, like at all. initially I told my mom, and she said she felt like Eve in the Garden of Eden, like she had just, she was watching me fall down the stairs. Like there was nothing she could do to prevent me from utter destruction. And it hurt a lot. I went on vacation right after I told her, and it just like, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. And I've had a lot of like tearful, angry conversations with my family. It's been really rough. I mean, it's generations back in Mormonism, and it's like I have done the worst thing that a child could do by leaving. It's like I've left a vacant seat at the table. It's like there's nothing worse that a daughter could do. My mother-in-law told my husband that it would have been better if he had died. She wouldn't be grieving so much. So it's just, it was severe. It was extreme. And it's only been through a lot of work and a lot of like respect. I try to give tons of respect to my family, because I believe that the respect that I give is what I can expect back. So, I show up to the baptisms, and I give hugs and loves. And sometimes I go to church with them. If I feel like it's Christmas and this is what we're doing as a family, I'll go, not everyone's that way. I know that's like too much to ask for a lot of people, and that's fine. But that's how I have tried to walk a middle road, but it's absolutely been a nightmare. I won't lie.
And so your husband, has he also left?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't go into that whole story, but yeah, I left, and then he saw the books I was reading and picked them up, and he was like, "Oh my gosh." And so yeah, he left around the same time.
Wow. That definitely makes a difference when you both are kind of on the same page as far as your deconstruction goes, for sure. Yep. What is a common Mormon reason for tragedies like car accidents that occurred while people were wearing the garments? Evangelicalism might say that God is allowing something bad to test your faith, or Satan got a sneak attack on you. What are some Mormon explanations for why bad things happen, even when you're following the Mormon rules?
Such a good question, right? There's like, I was just talking to someone about that, about how the contradiction, that you're supposed to be safe, but yet bad things still happen to people who are wearing their garments, and all the folklore around it. It's just, it's insane. But the pat answer would be, we don't know the Lord's ways.
Yeah.
The Lord's timing. It was his time. It was her time. Generally it's not blamed on sin. If you were in a car accident, it wouldn't be because you sinned. But if you were in a car accident after you had left Mormonism, it would be because you had left Mormonism.
That's right. Oh, wow.
Bad that happens to me is blamed on the fact that I've stepped away. It's because, well, she left, so that's why.
Wow. Are any of your siblings still Mormon? How did they react to your awakening? How are your relationships with your siblings today?
Yeah, they're all still very strong in the church. My 4 siblings and my husband's, he's got 7 kids in his family. Everyone's still in the church. My siblings are more, I think because they're younger, younger generation, they're more quiet about it. No one has confronted me, but it's always like tearful hugs. I've had talks with each one of them. Some have been more fiery, where it's been a little more tense, but I would say there's been less angst. They're not responsible for my salvation like my mom is. She feels a responsibility for my upbringing, and how have I failed? It must be my fault. And my siblings don't take ownership over my faith. I think they're really disappointed.
Try putting on a conference on religious trauma when your mother is still religious. That's that's a special kind of difficulty right there. That's me. Yeah. Yes. Oh, okay. is there such a thing as jumping to the creative step too soon or before you've completely processed all the emotions, especially if it's something like writing that is very reflective of those emotions?
No, that you can never jump to creation too soon. In fact, what's happening, I mean, I laid it out like step by step, but what's really happening is you're feeling those on hyperspeed. Like you're doing the identifying, like, oh my gosh, I need help. I got to unload somewhere. Here's where I'm going to unload. So you're just like quickly plowing to that place. I just outlined them, like what's actually happening behind the scenes. But absolutely, like I was like, tears are coming. I need to go make something, you know? So if you're journaling, you're writing, whatever it is you're doing, like at any stage, it is never a bad thing. Like it is, just do it. Do it as much as you can. It's like the faster you do that, the faster you're going to get to the next stage.
Oh, yeah. And it's so authentic when we do it that way. And I mean, if we're writing a song and we're in a certain place emotionally or dealing, going through our process when we write that song is going to be powerful, like, because that's really reflecting exactly where you're at. I love that. Did you do much music before you left the faith? I'm a musician and have so much trauma around music in the Christian world from multiple sources. A secondary grief is how long it's taking to recover in this area, and I'm even trained in therapy, etc. So did you have much music before you left the faith?
Oh, my heart goes out to you. It's so triggering, right? Like hymns and all these things.
Oh,
Oh, it's loaded.
yes.
That's a really good question. So, um, so just like side note about me, yes, I studied classical piano. I was a classical piano major in college, and then changed to something else. But so I did a lot of like classical training, and then a little bit of like, folk band touring in college and things like that. I was played in bands, but I didn't take music seriously until after, until I realized that the only reason I wasn't pursuing it seriously was because I thought my place was in the home making babies.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized, I if I have a dream to be a songwriter, a hit songwriter, I'm just going to go do that now because there's no punishment waiting for me. So, but second half of that question, um, about the triggering and the trauma from church music, I can so relate to that. I still have a hard time sitting down with hymns. It's so ingrained in us, in the CCM, the Christian, music world,
Mm-hmm.
especially. I mean, it's so like, hair raising, like anthems, and they're so emotional, and it's confused with the spirit. So it's like, you almost need to take a break. This is, I don't know, this is
Mm-hmm.
what I did, is I just took a break. I didn't throw away hymnals or anything, but I just said, I can't really listen to this music for a time. And now I can play hymns. In fact, the song I'll play for you is based on a hymn. And and it's just a twist on a hymn that felt therapeutic at the time, because when I play music, especially hymns, it's like it brings up this well of emotion and longing. You know, like I miss parts of that,
Mm-hmm.
but I also hate it.
Well, that's a terrific segue. Let's, if you feel like it, let's have that song right now.
Hmm. Okay. Um, this song is called "Sometimes on Sundays." Just before I move you guys over, and it's based on the idea that, sometimes, not always, but sometimes on Sundays, I miss everything about my community. And,
Mhm.
I've ostracized myself from that. And I do miss that. But I'm also human and angry and all of those things. So that's what the song's about. This is the piano that I basically recorded all the piano songs for the record. My daughter made this cover for my album. It's very sweet. Sometimes on Sundays I miss my old bad habits, ones I want to fix, ones I try to change. All the ways come back to me. Sometimes I lose it. I want to find a new devotion, but now that it's gone, I carry on, and I watch my forever slip away. Sometimes I'm breaking, and all the things I know that I shouldn't want. Sometimes beginning can feel like the ending. Somebody tell me what it's all for. Sometimes I miss it. I see it like a picture and it's simple. We're all sitting on the grass, playing children's games. Sunday afternoon is smiling down. Sometimes I'm angry. I wanna fall down into nothing. Oh, erase my name. Oh, it's such a shame that I'm only a footprint in stone. Sometimes I'm breaking, and only aching for things I know that I shouldn't want. Sometimes beginning can feel like the ending. Somebody tell me what it's all for. I miss the days I used to find myself among the blessed kind. I hear the battle hymns, the holy ones, the unsatisfied. Sometimes I'm breaking, and all the aching for things I know that I shouldn't want. Sometimes beginning can feel like the ending. Somebody tell me what it's all for. Sometimes beginning can feel like the ending. Somebody tell me what it's all for.
Just lovely. Thank you so much for that treat. And this is on your upcoming album?
Yes. Yes, coming up. Yeah, in fact, I wanted to film this music video in a church. I'm sure my mother would love that.
So what's a timeline like then? When would people be able to purchase your new album?
So they can pre-order now. If you go to my website, angelasoffe.com, you can pre-order it, and, follow me on Instagram, Angela Soffe Music. But then the record itself, like if you want the CD, you can pre-order, but you can just get it in September, October. I'll be doing releases, like a single in July and then another one in August.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. I enjoyed your presentation so much. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. It was great. And good luck with Heroica. That's